G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Matt Davis from Davis Business Law. He's based in Oklahoma City in the United States. Thanks for your time today, Matt.
Hey, I am excited to be here. Let's talk some shop.
Let's start with how we know each other. We both use the Podmatch platform for us to find guests and for guests to find podcasts to go on.
Yeah, that's been a great deal for us. And it's been fun to connect with people all over the world. We've been on podcasts all over America, England, Canada. Yeah, it's a great service.
And tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Well, we are a small business law firm, and we represent mom and pops, and we've got a few big companies that we represent. But our bread and butter are these small businesses, maybe startup all the way to $20-30 million. A lot of people wouldn't consider a $20 or $30 million business a small business. You might call that a mid-sized business. But that's our bread and butter. And our first core value is believe and protect their dreams. And it's cool to just get in, to be able to work with them, to be able to see them change their lives and change the trajectory of their families.
Yeah, important work, Law. How do you see, what's your take on what AI is going to do for your industry?
That's a really interesting question. I'm in a group called EO Lawyers, so it's Entrepreneurs Organization, but it's the Lawyers Forum. And we are discussing that this Thursday. I don't know that it's going to change. I think it's going to change brief writing, right? It's going to change content writing, but I don't know how much writing we do. I mean, a lot of what we do is advising. And I think it's going to take away the jobs of a lot of nerds that are sitting in the back of big law firms writing these 50-page briefs. They're going to have a hard time keeping their jobs. I mean, last time I sat down and wrote a brief like that was a long time ago. I think it's overblown. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, the internet's going to change everything. Well, it made a lot of our jobs simple, took away a lot of tedium, and it kind of made the legal secretary in some ways obsolete. So maybe that's what you're going to see is more of that.
Yeah, interesting. How did you start out?
I thought I was going to be a Washington lawyer. So I got out of law school and then I went to graduate school, got a master's degree in public administration, basically energy, and worked for Department of Energy in Washington, D.C. And I thought I was going to stay there. And then I had lunch one day with a cousin of mine, very similar career path. He was 10 years older than me. And I just said, man, I don't want to do this. And, Washington is just such a bunch of pretension all the time. And that's just not me. So I called my girlfriend and she was in Los Angeles and said, hey, let's move back to our hometown. And she said, okay. And 27 years and 5 kids later, here we are. But wow. I started out, man, I'll tell you what, I started on the ground. The law firm that I thought I had an easy job with just had hired 2 new lawyers. And they said, look, you can start on an eat what you kill basis, whatever you can get, you can have a piece of. And I just started answering the phone and, oh, sure, I can do that. And I just figured out how to do it. And I learned the law business from the ground up. We being me and some of my team, most of whom are still with me, we've done criminal jury trials, we've done adoptions, we've done federal whistleblower cases. We've run the gamut and have a really broad breadth of experience, a lot of which we just got rid of. And when we downsized, ultimately I left the law firm and worked by myself for about, I think, 8 or 9 years. And then one day I had a midlife crisis and decided to start a law firm. And I'm kind of joking about that and kind of not. I was practicing law out of my house because I had just a book of business. I mean, I wasn't in the phone book. I didn't have a website, but I was busy all the time. And I just decided, hey, this is too much, and called my old paralegal and said, let's go start a law firm. And we bought this old house that I'm in right now, and 26 employees now. 8 years later, or 7.5 years later, we're rocking and rolling.
Fantastic. So you started in 2015?
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yep. And say you're up to 27 team members now?
26, I think. And
26.
we're hiring right now. So I have a hard time keeping track. We're trying
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
hire a couple more lawyers right now.
That's amazing growth, Matt, over 8 years. Well done.
Well, thanks. A lot of great team members, that makes the difference. And then we just plan out growth and we go, okay, here's how much we want to grow. And then we go do it. And so this year we mapped out 30% growth, which is kind of our standard. And we said, okay, these are the number, these are attorneys are our main revenue producers. So this is who we've got to have in place. And let's go figure out how to hire them. And we have hires scheduled. And, Jim Collins calls it the 20-mile march, meaning you just do it step, step, step. And we stay pretty much on track with executing our plans.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So years ago in 2015, when you started the business, how old were you?
I guess I'm 54 now, so 46.
46. Yeah, right. And do you have any other key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business?
Well, we are pretty hardcore about our metrics, and that's one thing we're good at. We do 30% a year is our general goal. And I have a word problem up here on my whiteboard that I say is, this is how we get to success. And so I'm kind of peeking over at it. One thing is we have to close, right? I mean, it's law, but it's a business. And I know here's an interesting metric, and this speaks to failures because we're going to talk about some of that. So if we get a new lead call and we get that person on the phone with an attorney right then, 40% of the time we get the business. Now, this is a qualified lead. We get some leads that don't match up. If we don't get them on the phone immediately, 10% of the time we get that business. And speaking of failures, I realized last year that 60% of the time we were, not 60, 40% of the time we were taking messages. And this attorney will have to call you back. Well, that takes us down in the 10% range. So you go fix that. Now we're operating on 5% of our calls go to messages. That grew the law firm right there by 20% plus.
What's brilliant about that, Matt, is your penchant for measuring things. What gets measured is managed. The fact that you're tracking all that and you're thinking about the numbers allowed you to uncover that hole in the funnel, I guess, and fix it.
Yeah, and it's little stuff like that that makes the difference. And we're digital marketers, and we will engage with digital marketing agencies. And we are really, this is one of the best things that we've done is we map out how many leads we expect to have, because we generally, and again, you just heard me talk about making it better, but I know how many leads I need for an attorney in an established market, and then how many leads I need for an attorney in a new market. So I engage with our digital marketing agency on a standpoint, we have a lead tracker and we keep track of it. And like, guys, this is what I expect this month. And this is what I'm paying for you to deliver. And if you're not going to deliver it, we're going to go find somebody else. And when you're engaging with a digital marketing agency, you need to talk about that up front, because so many businesses just throw away money to these people and they don't hold them accountable to anything because they don't think about it. And it goes back to what you're talking about is you got to measure this stuff and then you can manage it.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm a numbers guy and love, especially in the age of digital marketing, it's much more measurable as opposed to radio or TV ads or billboards.
I do a little class called How to Manage a Digital Marketing Agency. And that's one of the reasons people are afraid to use it and they're afraid to spend on digital marketing because they don't know how to measure it. But it's not that hard, man. You get out, you measure it, you start to see a return and you're like, wow, okay, we can spend some money.
And do you measure things like obviously like customer acquisition cost and lifetime value?
Lifetime value is hard, but our lifetime value is high because our repeat business rate is really high. just because of the nature of what we do. When we find a client that is a really solid, sound business person. So I just took a call today from Tulsa, and this guy's going to, I know the guy when I'm talking to him, and we're going to do business with him for years and years, but some of them not. Okay. So lifetime client value is really hard for us to measure. I know our average case value is $8,000, right? So I can look at how many leads we closed this month and go, okay, that's the value of that business that we booked this month, right? Yeah, I know our average case acquisition cost. I know it. And what else? Know our average lead cost per market. We measure it by market. And, it's always a little bit higher in the newer markets. But in our established markets, we just watch it and we're like, okay, and it's steady. It's like a little north of $100.
That's fantastic. I'm not sure if you're aware of the unit economics in a SaaS business, but there's a common ratio. LTV to CAC is 3-1. So every dollar you're spending on acquiring a customer, you're clearing $2 profit, basically. So I guess for you guys, that would be something like the gross profit you make per case. You could spend a third of that in acquiring new customers if you wanted to keep scaling fast. But I'm guessing your main inhibitor is going to be enough team members, not getting the work. It's getting the people to do the work.
Yeah, it's getting the attorneys. Recruiting, we're pretty effective recruiters. Of course, we'll go recruit, and we use LinkedIn, and we'll use the state bar sites. And our ad is pretty crazy. Most law firm ads read like, "Hey, would you like to wear a gray suit and be a douchebag to humanity?" That's kind of what they say. And I'll work for prestigious blah blah. And look, guys, at the end of the day, we're plumbers pushing paper. People are hiring us to create practical solutions to their problem, and that's really true with our clients, because it's not like we're representing Exxon or BHP Billiton or some huge company. That they need practical solutions to their problems. But we go recruit, and when those people see our ads that think like we do, they're like, oh yeah, that's where I want to work.
That would really stand out in the industry. The shittiest part of one of my degrees, my business degree, was law. I've got a minor in law, unfortunately. I hated it. I just don't enjoy reading all that text. I don't know how you do it, but that would really make your ad stand out, that you've invested in making it creative and very different in a wash of, as you said, very boring ads out there.
Yeah. Well, these law firms, they hire these young associates, they just work them to death. And we're signaling, hey, when you're tired of that crap, come to work for us, because we'll give you a great place to work, and we run like a business, so we can pay you well, and we're providing good work for good service for our clients. And because we're doing that, we can pay you well. It's been a real recipe for success, and we're having a lot of fun with it too.
That's great. And how many offices do you have now?
I think it's a little weird in the way that you measure it. So our home base is in Enid, which is a small city in North Oklahoma. And, you might count Oklahoma City as 2 offices. We're in 8 markets right now, and we're going to add another market this year.
And what's your goal? You told me before we hit record, by 2030?
Yeah, to be in 30 by 30. We just kind of made it up. Okay, so let's be in 30 markets by 2030. Why the hell not,
Yeah, as you said, that's a great BHAG. Yeah, love it. When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
When we added our second attorney in Kansas City. Oklahoma City was an easy kill for us because we started here and then we went to Oklahoma City because it's hard to recruit attorneys here. And then Oklahoma City just grew really quickly because Oklahoma legalized medical marijuana, and it was a wild west. It was crazy. Other states set it up kind of like a cartel with a limited number of licenses. And Oklahoma was just, anybody can open a medical marijuana dispensary, and it was bonkers. And then now they're all fighting because they didn't think out their businesses very well. So Oklahoma City was, in a way, there was a lot of luck in Oklahoma City, but you get luck sometimes. And Kansas City was very methodical, very planned, very thought out. And we're just getting ready to add our third attorney in Kansas City. And so that to me was a real measure of the business model working. But we operate spread out. And the idea is let's plant and then let's establish and then let's grow. So we're getting ready to add our third attorney up there and doing similar things in Wichita, Kansas and Tulsa, Oklahoma. And, maybe some of it is too just the other aspect that I thought was good progress is when we figured out how to spread out. We did Oklahoma City and then we just said, let's go do Wichita and Tulsa. We did them all at once. Just made it happen. Okay, you got me going now. I'm thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
And, there's that line I learned years ago called, no, it's not fake it till you make it. It's face it till you make it. Okay. You look it in the eye and you go, okay, I'm going to go figure out how the hell to do this. Right. And when we started to branch out, I said to everybody, guys, we're a multi-state, multi-office law firm. Start acting like it. Start thinking about it. Start thinking like it. We're going to go make it happen. Everybody said, okay, let's go do it.
And what does success look like to you?
Success is partly financial. I want to have the firm generating a good degree of profit. And we were just out in Alabama. Our firm administrator and our CFO and I went out and we met with Greg Crabtree's company called Simple Numbers. And Greg wrote the money section of Vern Harnish's Scaling Up book and wrote the Simple Numbers book. And I read it every year at the end of November. The success there that I saw was they looked at our numbers and they said, you guys are not crazy. This is a really good scalable model. You're growing. You don't have any debt. You've got your core capital built up. So the apocalypse happens, you can sustain for a while. And that's success. And just seeing it run, seeing it grow. Some people want to check out and just go to the beach. I like what I do. I like working with people. And I like getting down in the nitty gritty with the team. I mean, a lot of my friends who run similar firms that, they're really checked out and really removed or more so than I am. One of my friends was saying, I haven't touched a case in 4 or 5 years. I'm like, man, I get in the middle of it. I mean, I was in Wichita in the courtroom last week and I was in Fort Worth doing depositions last week. And I've got a good management team and I kind of see my role as working with everybody and helping them grow and grow professionally. And I think it's fun and I like touching some clients and I think it makes me a better leader of the firm.
Yeah. Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast growing business?
Learn how to measure your marketing. It's that simple. And learn how to measure it because people don't. They just throw money away and they don't pay attention to it. And you just have to do it. You've got to measure it. You've got to be able to see a return on what you spent. The other thing I get back to is, I think it was Jay Baer. What was that book he wrote? But he talked, I think it's Talk Triggers maybe, talks about the 3 types of marketing. He talks about just-in-time marketing, which means they're actually looking for you, okay? And friend of mine marketing, which is let's put an article out there and let's try and teach them something in the hopes that they come back and use us at some point. And then top of mind marketing, which is, billboards or whatever. And if you can find a niche, if you can find a great way to do just-in-time marketing, meaning get in between them and everybody else when they're searching for help or searching for a product, man, that's beautiful because a lot of people just run around, put up billboards or write articles or so on. But if they're looking for you and you can be right there and you can measure it, bang, that's the money card.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds like you've nailed it. Never thought I'd ask a legal person but about marketing, great marketing, but it sounds like you've invested a lot of learning and time in perfecting it.
Well, I didn't get here on looks,
You've got a bit of a Martin Sheen look about you. Ever had that before?
No.
How did you fund the business?
Mostly self-funded. We went into a little bit of debt and Crabtree calls that the Badlands. And he talks about this number. I've heard him express it various different ways, but there's this point in growing a business from maybe 2 million, 1.5, 2 million American up to 3 or 5. And it's ugly. It's horrible because you've got to add all this non-revenue staff. In there, we added a CFO, we added some marketing people, we added a client services director, we added a chief operating officer. And, he's a lawyer, he's a retired Air Force colonel, great, great guy, and just, takes care of the team for me. And that's ugly. And it's a real strain on business growth, which is, one thing I tell a lot of my clients is, look, there's two ways to make good money in business: stay really small and tight or get big, because the middle stinks. So we borrowed a little bit of money in the middle. We paid it off, I don't know, 18 months ago. And that was a beautiful feeling. I went out and bought myself another Gibson Flying V at that point.
Right. If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
I would. I like what I do, and I'm good at it. And yeah, there's a lot of room in professional services to grow. And it's what I know, and it's what I like doing.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so audience can learn from it?
Well, it was being in debt and learning how to manage collections, because in the law business, there are some people that need legal help that maybe are there because they're not exactly playing straight with things. And, there's a lot of people that get in debt and then they need legal help. And guess what? They're just happy as hell to put you in that line. And so learning to build that team and manage the financial risks. It was easy enough when I was just small, just me, but having a team to manage it, and our CFO and our case finance director do just an epic job of that. But part of that is teaching the attorneys. We've had to work through how to communicate as a team in that regard. We've just changed some stuff, and I've got to send some emails to some of the attorneys because we're a little overextended on some receivables right now. That not bad. I mean, I think we're going to be fine on them, and it's nothing risky or anything. But we're just, we run really tight, and I got to say, hey guys, look at these examples. Let's think about why you didn't anticipate that we were going to need more trust money, because we try and pre-fund all of our work. Yeah, we try and pre-fund all of it. And we hit usually above 70% of it each week, which is fantastic in our business. There's people that do better, but not many. And that's been a challenge, just learning how to get the attorneys to work with case finance and client services. Building those systems in our space is really hard. And some of it has the nature to do with our client base, because they're small business clients. And there you go. It's been a challenge.
Want to become the best manager you can be? Check out our Kick-Ass Manager course at growasmallbusiness.com. Do the course, then add your fellow managers for no extra cost. Join the 30%. 70% of people quit their job because of their manager. What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
Yeah, that's it right there, is figuring out how to get that collections ratio tightened up. And, we run north of 95% right now. And we've got 300 open cases any given time. And you've heard the saying, herding. And
yes,
it's a lot of herding cats. And we just went over Orange Report today. And that's our Orange Report is our case finance report. I just color coded everything so I don't have to remember the names of them. And yellow's productivity, and purple's trust, and so on. Aqua is our call pickup rates. And I mean, when we got that in, I mean, if you're just talking about value, and just business effectiveness, dialing that in, hands down. So, of course, marketing, but that's how we get it. But we can work all day and give it away.
Yeah. What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
Case finance. It's stressful to figure it out, and it's hard, and and you got to kind of get the psychographics of your clients, your client base, and teach the team how to understand what's going on. And frankly, but you know what? You do the hard things, right? You do the hard things, and that's what makes you successful. Because what we're doing and what we've accomplished with that, aside from figuring out the marketing, but figuring out the case finance. And by the way, a lot of it for us is communicating with our clients about their financial position with us, because our fees in some of these cases can really become a problem and an impediment to them getting a good result. So we bill on 2 week cycles. And some people don't like that. I'm like, man, that's how we communicate to you, because some law firms will bill you like 3 months later. I mean, that's a really bad example, but a lot of them bill once a month or whatever, and it's garbage.
That's amazing that they wouldn't. Some don't even invoice until 3 months. That's just cash suicide.
Yeah, but law firms are horribly run generally. All but the big ones.
Yeah. And what do you love most about growing a small business?
It's fun to get to work with all of our team members. I talked about this idea of believe and protect their dreams, right? Well, it's fun to help our clients, right? I mean, I've got a buddy out here who's from a small town and he's just a farm kid. Well, he basically owns the small town, right? And one of my clients just sold his business. We're going to reinvent it, but to Exxon for over, let me put it this way, it's in the 9 figures. Yeah, it was a beautiful day. And, we're doing it all over again. And so that's fun, right? And it's really cool to see their lives change. But believe and protect their dreams really goes internally. Okay. So John's one of our attorneys. We were in court together last week, and it's just awesome to see his confidence come up and see him become a really great lawyer. And seen that with Jeff, with Dixie and Shantasia down in Dallas. And it's so fun to get to work with these people and to see them become really great professionals. And the other thing we do is we give them a great life. And we've looked at what's wrong with the law business and how they treat people, how they treat lawyers in it. And by the way, for the staff too, we've got a whole different sort of aspect of how we believe and protect their dreams. But Ashley and Dixie have each had babies, 2 babies within the last 3 years, each of them. I'm like, this is wonderful. I mean, I mentioned I'm on maternity duty right now because we just had a firm baby, right?
Yep.
But it's so cool to see them have that life and to see them give them a month off and just to see their lives blossom, and in a way where we can pay them well and they're making a difference in people's lives. And, we're right in the middle of another 9 figure deal, and it's Ashley's deal, but they've got their thumb on me right now because they're like, you're in charge. She's out. You're in charge. I'm like, okay.
That's good. Sounds like you're breaking the mold of particularly the bigger law firms and even accounting firms. I was at PricewaterhouseCoopers, my only job out of uni, 3 years, but long hours, big billable target focus, not very good work-life balance. And it's still very much going on these days, particularly in law. But that's not something that you have baked into your business model.
We really defined ourselves against it. I hated law school. It's just, it attracts a lot of people that I don't think have a very good heart about them. And it just didn't sit well with me. Never has. I don't really tolerate people that are pretentious and that talk down to people. I come from old American farm people, and as we know, we're all born naked and all go into room temperature. So why the hell do we want to treat other people poorly?
Yep. What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
Well, at the start, it was just obviously getting my brain around what's his name, Michael Gerber's E-Myth.
Yeah, great book, my favorite.
Yeah, it's kind of just a basic shift, and understanding that distinction between, I always call it finders, minders, and grinders, but I think he calls it, technicians, managers, and entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
And really understanding that, and understanding that when I was working by myself, I was doing all three, and I was doing well. I mean, we had a nice life. But understanding that distinction, one of my friends works for a plumbing company and he's talking about starting his own business. And I'm like, okay, read this book and think about this because this is the concept that you have to get. And once I grasped that, it really helped me understand the changes that I needed to make. Now, I am not true to form in the sense that Gerber talks about, and a lot of my friends talk about, you need to be just the pure entrepreneur. And you can do that, and maybe I should. And maybe it's a personal failing, but I like what I do. And I do a lot of entrepreneuring, if that's a verb. But
It's a choice, though, Matt. You've got the choice to dip into being a technician sometimes in the court, a little bit of management, a bit of entrepreneur. The difference is you've set your business up so you could choose. You could spend all your time as on the entrepreneur level or minimal hours. So, yeah, I think you've nailed it. Well done.
yeah, that's true. Except when I'm on maternity duty, right?
Yep. The number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Well, I call it learning your word problem. And what I mean by that is learning what the systems of your business look like and learning how to measure them. And then doing it week after week after week after week. And my word problem is hire A players. And that's obviously a loaded term because I know what A players look like. And, particularly with attorneys or staff and I got to get them X number of leads, depending on the whether it's a new or established market. We got to close at a given rate, and then we got to utilize, which is productivity, and that's a term drawn from Clio, which is one of the management softwares. And then we got to collect at a certain rate, and then we got to return. I know that word problem, and you have to figure out what your metrics are, man. And then I'm a musician, and then you just have to run it like rhythm and bass. Because guess what? The great bands, I talk about this in my book, the great bands are built on rhythm and bass. That's your rhythm section. And then you can go out and bust some cool guitar riffs if you want to.
Yeah, I used to be in a few bands back when I had hair about 30 years ago. It was great fun. I know what you're talking about. The perfect question for you. You're at about 26 team members now in 8 years. That's amazing growth. You've got ambitions to add a lot more. Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
We use two books as instructive. Okay. One is Jeff Smart's Who.
Top grading. Top
But
grading? Oh, Jeff Smart's Who. Yes, that's right. Yep.
Top Grade is his dad's book. That's Brad. And I kind of talk about it like this. Top grading is like the Old Testament. And in some ways, it kind of reads like Leviticus, they
Yep.
begat us. All right. Right. And Junior wrote Who. And the principle's pretty much the same. It's this: leopards don't change their spots, people stay who they are. It's kind of that simple. Man, I know I'm oversimplifying it, but that's kind of the deal. So that's part of it. Now, here's the other thing. We use Mark Murphy's hiring for attitude, and it's all about identifying what your culture is, signaling what your culture is, and letting those people come to you. And okay, so that's recruiting. And we probably ought to talk about recruiting, maybe different from hiring. I think there's a gray area there, but that's the start. And then we've got the end. And our questions, both those books teach different ways of asking questions, but it's about give them open-ended things. And let's not ask a bunch of stupid questions like, what's your favorite color? And tell me
Yep.
about your favorite teacher. I mean, what a bunch of random crap. Let's talk about real life stuff. And we've got a really solid list of questions of, can you tell me about a time when you had a staff member that didn't want to help you? And what I'm looking for is if they twist off about what a bunch of pains in the ass their staff was, that's probably their fault. They were probably being unreasonable and stuff like that. So recruiting and hiring is all based on those two books. And it's very culturally driven because we don't work with people we don't want to have here. Now, a lot of law firms just go around and, as I say, hire people with a bar card and a pulse because they just want to put them in some back office and turn them into a billing machine.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work for our clients.
Yeah.
We're not sitting here writing 500 pages of brief to go to some, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals or 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. Crap, our people need a job done. They need a practical solution. I had a guy today, and he's got some of his ex-employees just trashing him on Facebook, and he needs them to shut the hell up, and they have a non-disparagement clause. Okay? He needs us to go sue them and put a cork in their mouths.
What are some of the things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth? Another perfect question for you.
Yeah, well, figure out who you are and show some leg. And put it out there. And first things first, figure out what your core values are, and that's discover. Okay. And that's a discovery process. Usually starts at the top. Okay. You probably picked up I'm pretty intolerant of people not being nice to each other. And I really come from old common folks, and I want to see people be successful. I want to see them build something out of their lives. And so that's our first one. Our second core value is create solutions. People hate problem bringers. Nobody wants people that just bring you problems. They want people that come up with solutions, right? Constant contact's our third value, because people in the law business, clients, they hate it when the attorneys don't communicate with them. So we built systems that are communicating, sending signals, whether it's financial or case progress. And then teamwork equals dream work, because we've got a great team, but some of these lawyers want to be lone rangers. And figure out what your core values are, and then guess what? Hire and fire based on them. And they're not creating solutions. And we let a guy go last year because he wasn't creating solutions. He was just kind of admiring problems. And I'm like, yeah, I got time for this crap. That's one of Derek's lines.
Tell our audience how you've handled balance.
Not very well. My wife will tell you I like to work too much, but that's a common family trait. I was just down in Dallas with my Uncle John, and he's the same way. And we like what we do. And my Uncle Larry's 90, and he's still blowing and going. Although he's pretty excited because he's got a hot 90-year-old girlfriend now.
How much professional development have you invested in yourself? And obviously a lot on the legal front, but more on the business side. Sounds like you've invested a lot, understanding, starting off with the E-Myth, but learning about how to set up the right business model, build the team, and grow the business properly.
Yeah, we've done a lot, and we are not afraid to invest in that. I was a member of a group called How to Manage a Small Law Firm. It's great, and I really do owe them a big thanks. But I like to change senseis about every 3 years. And I feel like you kind of hit a point of diminishing returns. So I was with them for 3 years. We worked with a scaling up business coach for 3 years. He was fantastic, learned a lot from him. And I'm a constant reader. And in the last year, though, I've been really focused on reading Vern Harnish's Scaling Up over and over and over again. It's incredibly dense, but it's incredibly good.
The great book. Did you read his first one, Rockefeller Habits?
Yes, sir. And we are pretty close to having all those implemented. I had dinner with Vern last year. It was great. Just him and me and my old business coach in Wichita. And been reading Jim Collins over and over again, just his canon. And one thing that's really cool that I haven't talked to anybody that's picked up on this. He reissued Beyond Entrepreneurship, which was his first book, not really widely received. Okay, before Good to Great and everything. And he reissued it as BE, Beyond Entrepreneurship 2.0.
Yeah, I read that last year. It's great.
Right. Did you see I think it's on page 123, he has this little chart and he says, look, this is the synthesis of everything I've written about in the last 35 years. And I'm like, oh yeah, guess what? That's sitting on my wall over there.
That's great. Yeah, I'd encourage anyone going on the Jim Collins journey, start with that book and then dive into Built to Last, Good to Great, Good by Choice, which I just finished the other week, which is good as well. Yeah,
it's fantastic. But we spend a lot of time investing in that and investing, just building as a team. We run the Scaling Up program, or if that's what you call it, model. A lot of my friends run Entrepreneur Operating System. You made me think about something right there. I don't know where this fits, but Scaling Up has got this function accountability chart, and he calls it's a FACE or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what it stands for. It's an acronym. And when you can figure that out and just say, I am responsible for, and really narrow down what people are responsible for, it's super, super powerful. I am responsible for firm growth. Okay, that's what I'm responsible for. Derek, our COO, he's responsible for productivity. And people will come to me and they'll be, hey, this or that. I'm like, he's responsible for productivity. And somebody came in today and they're like, hey, what about this case? Should we take it? I said, Tricia is responsible for revenue. Because our CFO is in large part a chief revenue officer. Both Jamie and Tricia are accountants, and which is a real blessing. But when you can nail down, bang, I am responsible, snap.
Yep.
You got some power.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we hit record, I did mention a book which you hadn't read yet, which I'll send through to you, but anyone else in the professional services space, I recommend reading as well, written in the early 90s by British author David H. Maisters, Managing the Professional Services Firm. I'm sure you've got 99% of the basics espouses in the book in your business, but you might pick something up from it.
I will read it. Yeah.
Have you had mentors or coaches along the way?
Yeah, we had a Scaling Up coach, and then we just joined another group called Great Legal Marketing, but it's more of a peer group mastermind. And I had to bow out for the first half of the year, but we're about to do that. And other thing that's been really good is I'm in Entrepreneurs Organization in the Oklahoma City chapter, which is great. And you have your local chapter and you have your local forum, which is your posse. Mine's pretty fun because 3 of us grew up together, which really adds a weird element. But then the lawyers forum, and we have a large forum. We're meeting Thursday, and a small forum. And so many of our firms are similar, and they're from all over the world. And we've got a constant WhatsApp chat going on, and everybody's sharing ideas, talking about sharing needs, wants, ideas, dreams, whatever. Wow, it's been a fantastic mastermind.
Do you have a board of directors or advisors?
I would say no. I mean, we have our management team, and that's pretty much what we do. We were just out in Alabama with Crabtree's company, and we got a lot of good advice from Jack out there.
All right, Matt, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Figuring out your word problem, figuring out all those little metrics that are going to make it work. It's that simple. And you're all the time going to find stuff that's new and different. And you're just going to, one of my favorite quotes, Harvey Mackay just said, I can't believe how stupid I am 2 weeks ago, or was 2 weeks ago. And you just got to get used to that feeling because you're going to learn something new all the time. By the way, when you can get comfortable with that and go, okay, yeah, I'm going to make some mistakes, but let's go get them.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
E-Myth to start, Great by Choice after that. Or, well, maybe Scaling Up.
Yep. Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
I don't listen to podcasts about business because I have to take notes. I pay a lot more serious attention. So I can't do that. I just can't do it.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
Yeah, Scaling Up.
Final and my favorite question, what would you tell yourself on day 1 of starting out 8 years ago?
It's going to take 8 years. Everybody says it takes 5 to 7 years to get your business where you feel like it's successful. And I tell people, yeah, look, it's 7.
Yeah,
so.
I've heard that too. Thanks very much for your time, Matt. I've really enjoyed our chat. I'm sure we could talk for another hour or so, but I know you're on maternity leave at the moment, cover. So I know you got to get back to it. Great, fantastic growth.
Thanks. Hey, it's great. I'd love to come visit you one day. And it's maternity duty. She's on leave. I'm on duty.
Judy, sorry. Well, yeah, amazing growth. Congratulations to you and the team. Over 8 years now, starting on your own to 26 team members. You've got 8 precincts or areas that you're operating from and helping a lot of people out there at the same time. So thanks very much.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Take care.
We're getting some great iTunes reviews. For those listening, please pop over to your podcast app and leave us a review.